You are listening to Gorehound's Playground Storytellers Hour.
Hello.
My name's Dustin. We have
Jason.
Dan.
And Dan Patrick, the sports announcer.
I took a break in my schedule so I could come out and do a little talk with you guys.
Yay.
He's not really the sports announcer.
No. He's a Gorehound fan, and we love him.
Obsessed fan.
Obsessed fan, yay.
All right. So we have a special episode here. We've been discussing kind of impromptu, but we would like to talk about experience with drug and addiction issues that have woken us up. And before we start talking about that, I want to talk about the Filmmakers Group and how it's impacted me personally. About 10.5 months ago, I decided to quit drinking and, get more into hobbies to take my mind off of my addiction issue. And I discovered Gorehound's Playground and met Jeff. And it was all about making movies, starting a film group. And so I've been keeping me sober. And I've met a lot of like-minded people that have really impacted my life. And that's why I keep coming back. So yeah, I'm going to let you guys start with
Can
your
I
stories.
say something?
Yeah.
I'm concerned with that because, I was sober for 4.5 years and recently relapsed. And without the film group and Dustin here and doing these podcasts, there's no way I would be back on the sober train. So.
I think that's awesome, yes.
Right.
Yeah, this is Dan. I think sometimes, we need to get ourselves out of the places that really kind of trigger us. Like if we're isolating ourselves at home and things like that. If you have an addiction, it's just... it just really kind of... I want to say... It really makes you think about just yourself and you don't go do anything. And when I moved to Colorado... it was kind of a fresh start for me since I lived in Nebraska before.
One of the things that has helped me is getting out of my comfort zone and going and do something.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you really have to force yourself sometimes to get out of that comfort zone, and I know I do.
A lot of times.
A lot of times, yeah. Definitely.
For me, anyway.
I think... I don't know if any one of you have seen any of the films that Jason and I have worked on, the playground and some of the anti-programming stuff. Yeah. The great thing about this group is I have depression and I have anxiety and I have weird thoughts, and I can take those weird thoughts and make weird ass stories.
Yay.
And put them on film, and it's a really good, healthy outlet. And yeah, they're disturbing and they're sick and they're twisted, but those are my emotions. It doesn't mean I'm going to act on them in real life, but I'm letting it go. I'm letting that emotion go on film.
And you're turning it into something positive at the same time, which is it's definitely a plus.
Sure.
If you can turn those bad things that are bothering you and channel them into your art or music, whatever it is that you're into, films. You can really do something good with something that starts out really terrible. I heard a Buddhist saying one time about, it's called turning poison into medicine. So whenever you got something shitty or bad going on in your life, if you reconsider it, you can switch that around and try to find some sort of positive in it. And then you can turn that poison into medicine and channel it. In this case, I think is a great example of that.
Excellent. Thank
Awesome,
you,
man. So who wants to start with their pinnacle addiction story that kind of woke them up? Anybody?
Oh boy. I've got so many. My drug career was 30 years long, and I started with alcohol back when I was a teenager. And let's go with that, because after this story, I wasn't really able to drink booze. I forced myself, but I used to have this Indian friend of mine, and we go drinking, usually the dark stuff, and ended up ended up over at his family's place, and they were drinking. And I was the only little white kid, so they called me Casper the whole night. Hey, Casper. And we were playing drinking games, quarters, and just drinking Budweiser. Ran out of beer, so we went down to the liquor store. They brought us in there as underage as a distraction so they could steal some hard liquor. We get back to the house and start doing our drinking games again. Boy, oh boy, they're like, hey, Casper, it's time to do shots. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do that. And it was Jack Daniels. Well, we'll give you a mixer then. So they mixed my Jack Daniels with beer. When I'm young, it's my third, fourth time, really drinking heavily. And boy, I drank the whole 32 ounce of whatever the beer and liquor was. And so did my friend. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, we start horking. And we're horking heavy, like
major uncontrollably.
Oh, yeah, it was horrible. We crawl outside to the railroad tracks, and we're crying on each other. And just keep throwing up. And I'm throwing up blood all of a sudden.
Ooh. Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, do we need to go somewhere? How are we going to go somewhere? We can't even hardly move. And by now it's about 5:30 in the morning, still throwing up blood and dry heaving uncontrollably. And to this day, if I even smell dark booze, I almost work. The last time I took a little bit of whiskey was not even a half shot. I was sick for 16 hours. Yeah, so.
It's like your body's saying no more of that.
That was definitely a turning point for alcohol in my addiction career.
Well, I could tell stories about alcohol probably, but I guess one of the stories I can say that was really
Dan, you don't have to tell stories about alcohol. You can tell about whatever you want, man.
Yeah.
Well, this involves alcohol and
okay.
the other drugs I was abusing at the time. So I was probably about 23 years old, hanging out with my usual friends who I will not name. And they're not in this state either, so it's probably a good thing. We started out partying that night and just smoking blunts and smoking pot, and it was cool. And then people came over to my friend's house, the usual people we would kind of like, the self-destruction crew that I hung out with, basically. And it was pretty shitty. We all didn't give a fuck about our lives or anything, so we were willing to do anything. So one night we just kind of like basically saw whatever everybody had in their pockets. I had, hydrocodone. I had some Xanax or lorazepam, something along those lines.
Don't mix those two, people.
Well, that was our problem. See, we mixed everything. So my friend had some methamphetamines. So we put a little meth on. Well, we crushed the meth up with the hydrocodone and with the Xanax. And there's a couple other ones in there that I can't remember now. And we crushed them all up, and we each did about a line that was about as big around as a crayon.
Oh my God.
A couple inches. And within, I'd say, 30 to 45 minutes, I went from knowing what was going on to completely forgetting everything that happened then. And I blacked out. Don't remember where I blacked out or what happened exactly. And I woke up probably like 2 or 3 hours later. I'm laying on the bathroom floor next to the toilet in my friend's apartment. And then my friend comes in and shakes me, and he said, "Are you all right?" And I came to consciousness pretty quickly. And I just didn't know what happened at first, so I was really scared. And he said, I passed out too, and so did the other kid we were hanging out with. And everybody passed out, but we never did that again. But after that night, we always talked about how we couldn't believe we survived that evening doing all that dumb shit. So I would not suggest it. Highly not suggest it. That was a turning point for me, definitely.
Did you take any steps after that to stop abusing drugs or alcohol?
Yeah, honestly, within about a month or two, I had been in, I checked myself into drug treatment. This was 2001. So I remember 9/11 was on that Monday or Tuesday, I'm trying to think now. And I just broke up with broke up in a relationship like 2 days before that, so I was already really depressed. And then 9/11 happens. And that day I felt like a switch was flipped inside of my head, if that makes any sense to anybody out there listening. But and I felt like from that day on, nothing has been the same. Honestly, with I'm able to function well now, and I've been off hard drugs for 15 years.
15 years is a long time. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of problems with cocaine and a lot of the pills and things. I relapsed like a lot of people. Probably 7 or 8 years after I quit doing cocaine and everything. This was right before I met my current wife. I was partying really hard and stupidly. And anyway, so quit doing that when I met my wife, soon-to-be wife. And did really good for years, and then I had a back injury when I was in my early 30s, and I started popping pills again. Started out with hydrocodone. I'm trying to think what else. What are the popular painkillers?
It's a progression. You go for hydrocodone and then switch over to Percocet. The
Percocets.
5s, and then the 5s don't work, so they give you the 10s, and then you tell them, hey, I've been on these ones with Tylenol too long, and I already take Tylenol, so they give you ones without Tylenol.
Yeah, once they take the Tylenol out, then you have a free-for-all because you can take as much as you want then.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about your liver going out, but I mean, you probably do anyway, honestly, but the way you reason at that time period
it's still, it's still an addiction no matter what it is.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, you'd be shoving your face full of cake.
Same thing in my opinion.
It's the same fucking thing,
or
man.
Over shopping.
Yep.
I had issues with over shopping. After I sobered up, I would just spend money really quickly, very impulsively, and then I'd feel bad about it afterwards. So I'd return the stuff and feel bad about it, until the next time when I'd buy more stuff, and then I'd return it again because I spent too much money. So it was I went through that for a while and finally got over that. But yeah, I had a few relapses on pills, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Suboxone. But it's a wonderful medicine if you're addicted to opiates at all, if you have any problems with that. Once I got on that, within 24 hours, I had no craving left at all for anything, any drugs. It was unbelievable. It had its drawbacks on your body at first, but I mean, if you need to quit hard drugs, it's something I would look into, definitely.
Are you still using Suboxone?
No, I actually got off Suboxone. My last round was like a year and a half ago. And I got off Suboxone when I moved to Colorado, and I got my medical marijuana card. And now I only medicate with marijuana and smoke it and vaporize it, and I use edibles. And I'm feeling really good. And I'm still working on getting off some of my other medicine, but it's a slow process. So,
pharmaceuticals are rough. They
They're
do
rough.
change your chemistry.
definitely.
So I've had some problems since I quit drinking with anxiety meds and depression meds that my doctor recommended, and some of the symptoms are almost like stroke type symptoms.
Yeah, seizures, epilepsy. I mean, some of these things, if you quit them cold turkey.
So I just stopped taking them, man, because it just made me feel weird, like a robot. And I was having what they call those brain zaps, like
a zing, huh?
I've had medicine to do that to me as well.
So I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not, and I was against pharmaceutical antidepressant type.
I've tried almost all the antidepressants, and none of them have worked for me. What works for me is getting out of my comfort zone, engaging with people, and being outside.
Yeah, I think it's important. That's going back to the Filmmakers Group. Like, let's be real. Like, we're emotional beings. We have trauma and emotional issues from the past, and we're not getting them out in a healthy outlet. So we feel the need to go out and use hard shit because we got all this pent up emotional crap that we haven't dealt with. And that's why coming to the Filmmakers Group is so important, having a podcast and having Filmmakers Group making films, because we're taking all that emotional garbage that we have and we're
releasing it
and we're putting it into films and podcasts. We're having these open discussions about things. This is what needs to happen, but people are isolating themselves, like overthinking,
and
constantly about their problems.
looking at those face huggers instead of
phones,
engaging with a real person.
Yep.
Well, I also think, society now is going everybody's so obsessed with, Facebook, even more so, I think, just being on their cell phones. So, it's really important that we have this social interaction between each other to stay human, I think. And when we start losing this social interaction, and talking to people we like to talk to, the people that make us happy and inspire us, it's amazing when that happens, but it seems like the face-to-face communication is just, kind of disappearing.
One of the things I've noticed is, we talk on the instant messaging a lot with each other, but when we do see face-to-face, we don't know what to speak about because we've already talked about it.
Remember back in the day when, before internet and Facebook, you go, early 90s, so I was still a kid, but your parents would take photos and put them in a photo album. They'd have like a dinner party or have your relatives over. And
I hated those.
Like, looking at a photo album was like a big deal. Like, it's getting passed around the living room, around the coffee table. Yep. And you're having a discussion, you're interacting. Oh, how was your vacation? How was this? Blah, 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 blah. But now people see stuff on Facebook and they're like, I already know what you did. I saw the photo, so why the fuck am I going to ask you about your vacation? I already know what happened.
Do you think the excessive photo taking on Facebook is kind of destroying the value of photos and the memories that, speaking of like photo books and things like that, we used to enjoy those things with our families. Sometimes, maybe not enjoying it, but it was definitely a part of life back then.
Well, even a phone, like a landline phone. Remember when the phone rang and everybody's like, it was like exciting thing.
Race
like,
to the
oh
telephone.
Yeah, who is it? I'll get it.
Yeah, it was, and now it's like everybody's got their own, and
yeah.
Or when the doorbell rings,
and everybody's freaked out when the doorbell rings. Who the fuck is it? Oh,
I didn't ask anyone to come over. Whereas 30 years ago, it was a mad dash to see who could get the door first.
Or even
now we don't want to engage with anybody. Nobody at the door. Nobody, even if they're supposed to be there, we're just like, fuck it,
Yeah, I find myself feeling the same way. So I just think it's important to interact, and I think the reason why there's lots of drug use is because some emotional trauma, and now you're stuck with this subconscious past thoughts, and the only way to really get that out is in art and communicating with your friends in a community. And
I think most of the work is in actually doing things like that. The medicine, I've been on medicine for antidepressants and things of that nature for 15 years now, 15 or 16 years. And, that doesn't solve the problem. It helps some things. I never could sleep before. I never took a nap in my entire life, except until I was on my medicine for about 3 or 4 years. I took a nap in the daytime for the very first time, and I remember it like it was so amazing, So in that regard, it is nice to be able to sleep good at night, but, the effect of these pills on our bodies is, we don't even know. Terribly detrimental, and, it'll shorten our lifespans. They destroy your organs, so it's like...
Well, drugs are drugs, man.
Exactly.
So you got a doctor who said this is okay, but this is not, and there's like kind of the same thing. It doesn't make any sense.
I think that's part of the medical marijuana discussion too. Yeah, totally.
Sure.
Before it wasn't even taken seriously in the professional medical arena. I wouldn't say.
They did encourage my mother. She was on hospice, but they encouraged her to smoke or eat as much as she could handle. And they did not change her pain med regimen.
What I'm saying though, like say street heroin versus like
fentanyl,
antidepressant, because you're using because you're having anxiety issues about past bullshit, right?
Exactly. You're trying to suppress emotions.
You're trying to suppress it, but then the doctor gives you something that's like it, but almost has worse side effects. But that's socially acceptable, and that's okay. And I'm not saying... So I'm saying
right,
both,
totally.
both things are wrong, in my opinion. Prescription drug antidepressants, I'm totally against them. Call me a hippie. But I don't want to put that shit in my body. I've experienced it. And
I'm not a fan either, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not a fan.
You know, I'd like to talk about the drug Lyrica. I was on that and gave it an honest chance. You know, it's supposed to help with nerve pain, and it completely changed me. You know, so I did a little research and come to find out in Europe they use it as an antipsychotic,
Oh, wow.
and it's heavily abused, like heavily, yeah. And you know, I weaned myself off, and it still took 8 weeks to feel that the drug was out of me. You know, feel
Believe it.
normal, whatever that means.
Well, some of those drugs, I know, I've spoken with my old doctors, and they've told me that some of the medicine I've taken, like Seroquel, for example, that can have a half-life of over a year in your system.
Damn.
Which is something I didn't know, you know, and I didn't think anything could stay in your system that long, you know, depending on what solubility is, you know, if it's fat soluble, water soluble.
Right.
But some of this stuff's hardcore, and it will, you know, I mean, when I first got on Seroquel, I was thin my entire life, and I went from about 180 pounds to 260 pounds within a year.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was... I became Fat Dan, and I never expected it, and I was never overweight, and that changed my life dramatically. So,
And that was a what?
that was Seroquel.
Was that an antidepressant?
It's like an antidepressant, yeah. Antidepressant, anti-anxiety. I don't know if I've taken as many antidepressants as Jason has had to, but
Do you think
I've taken over 10. I know that.
Do you think it's helped you mentally though?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, it's more of a fear to quit taking them. I think because the doctors make you worried about quit taking them because they say, oh, you can have all these terrible things happen. Physiologically, there's terrible things that could happen. One time, this was probably 12, 13 years ago.
Don't ever go cold turkey. Taper off of those
All I'm
pharmaceuticals.
saying is,
Well, exactly. I was very afraid of that one. My doctor cut me off of lorazepam because, I lost my insurance. So I had to go to, the public health system, and they wouldn't prescribe me my anxiety medicine anymore. Cut me off cold turkey, and for a week I felt like I was going to die. Honestly,
Yeah,
I was super sick, fever. Whole body was racked with pain. It was terrible. Felt suicidal, depressed.
And that's where a lot of these famous people have been killing themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a trap. It's a trap, dude. It's
Once you get caught, and man, how do you get out? That's my question.
You got the pressure from your doctor, from your family, and all these people. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's like this.
But you need to be healthy at the same time,
Yeah, but with all the side effects, it's not healthy.
Nope.
Well, yeah, it's like, what is the right choice, I mean, do you take the medicine, and just roll the dice? I mean, I was kind of forced into taking the medicine, honestly, at first, because there was no other immediate thing I could do besides start taking medicine.
And one of the things they do for pain management, which is what I was on for so long, was they stop increasing your opioids and say, okay, now you need to have an antidepressant. Now you need to have a nerve calming pill. So now, and then with all that, you're constipated. So now you need a poopy pill. And now all of a sudden I've got 6 prescriptions.
And you can solve most of the problems with eating right and eating healthy.
And some hard work,
Working out.
Yeah, and doing some brain exercises and getting outside, engaging.
It takes hard work, but
It does.
I'd rather do the hard work than fucking have all these side effects.
Sometimes being an addict,
Yeah.
we're a little lucky because we band together to help each other. An addict is the only one that can really help another addict.
For sure, because we're the only ones who can understand what we've been through. And even somebody who's empathetic towards us, they still don't get it unless they've been there. And, that makes a difference.
The only disease in the world you get yelled at for having.
Well, yeah, it's like the mental health industry and how people are still act as if it's superstition and non-existent. But it's like, technology now has shown that there's a difference in a depressed brain. If you do an MRI, they can tell the differences.
Yeah.
So it's a physiological disorder, not just a.
Dan, did you ever see that TEDx talk about the psychologist who was talking about how he started doing brain scans?
No.
He was actually looking at the brain and discovering a lot of people have depression and emotional problems because of head injuries. He was involved in that movie with Will Smith.
Oh, with the sports-related football injuries.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, man. Like, they showed an alcoholic's brain.
Concussion, I believe, is in that.
Yeah, drugs to trauma.
Sure.
He scanned different types of brains that had different types of trauma or addiction or whatever, or some natural diseases like Alzheimer's. Sure. So he scanned like an alcoholic's brain, and he scanned a person with Alzheimer's, and the brain scans looked very similar. There was lots of holes in the like left and right lobes of the brain, the frontal lobe of the brain, and they were very similar. And this is like someone who's been drinking for like 25 plus years or something like that.
Oh wow!
So
it's the same areas were damaged.
Mm-hmm. Very similar. I mean, it wasn't like perfect match, but it was
enough for the doctor to take note.
Definitely, yeah. I mean,
so
it's doing the same kind of damages.
Sometimes I think like maybe we haven't figured out if there was any type of trauma in our life that we've been holding on to that kind of triggers our usage of drugs.
Or our need to pick up.
Yeah, or leave the pickup. Or it was a head injury. You're playing soccer, and
that's
you get hit in the head.
Wouldn't even think of,
and you're like, why am I so fucking sad? There's no reason why I should be sad right now. Maybe that was a fucking head injury. Maybe you got kicked in the fucking face, and that's part of.
It was never treated properly.
Yeah, and I have had so many head injuries.
Me too. I've smashed my head into a lot of things. And I never even thought about, what it could have done, Yeah. I guess you just keep going, but that's a valid point, though. You could add a lot of things that are even...
I wish I knew that psychologist's name, but I'm sure you can look it up. Just like type in brain scan, TED Talks or something on YouTube. You can watch it.
Yeah, those TED Talks are really awesome. I like watching them. Pretty brilliant. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a big issue to talk about. All of this, addiction, mental illness, how they're... I'm trying to think what they call that now. It's like when you have the two issues working in tandem, the depression along with the drug abuse problem. It's like it's basically two disorders like working together, but they're not separable.
Kill you.
Yeah, it feels like that. Sometimes it feels like that a lot.
That's how I look at it. It helps me separate my addictive personality with who I really am, and I can put it on my shoulder and look at it, and
cool.
It helps me stay clean.
Awesome.
I think it's definitely good to look at all that stuff if you can objectively. It's really hard to do when it's your own issues, but I always try to tell myself when I'm feeling depressed or any emotion that is uncomfortable, or you have obsessive thoughts, things like that, insomnia, that's usually related to that too. But you just gotta try. I try to look at it as these thoughts I'm having are just thoughts, and the real issue is my brain chemistry right now is, it's off. I mean, that's why I take the pills, because something was not right, I guess. So in that regard, I'm glad I take some of the medicine I do, but I think it's very excessive, and it's given me other problems physically. Besides gaining weight, just destroyed my stomach, really bad acid reflux. There's so many, and then like Jason and we were talking about. I'm trying to think now. It was related to that. I'm sorry. I can come back to that. But I don't know. It was interesting.
So one thing that we didn't talk about was there's you got emotional trauma, which triggers or starts your usage,
right. Or the need to change your brain.
Yeah, brain.
Brain
and then you
change.
Got, like actual head trauma, And then what about society pressure?
Right.
Like living in this stressful society where it's like you're like
you have to have the
situation right
house
now.
and the white picket fence and the 3.2 kids and the minivan with $70,000 worth of debt. Not
And you're
counting
working
the mortgage.
And like in Colorado, a lot of us are working 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet, and you never have time for your friends, family.
But you have to have this stuff.
But you gotta
have to
have-
have the new phone. You have to have the new car this year.
It's going to make you depressed in the long term, you know.
Yeah, trying to keep up with everybody's idea of what you should have, what you should look like, what you should own. You know, it's just an unattainable goal because it's always going to be amped up. The person's going to take it to the next level and say, "Okay, let's make this fancier. Let's add this." So it's like it's this dream that it's an illusion, you know. And once you quit trying to follow that model, I think it's really freeing, you know.
And that brings me back to the film community, network community that we're trying to build here is, you know, we have to help each other to survive. If we do it properly, we don't even need their money. We have each other. And I hope some folks out there understand that money is fake.
And
it's a necessary evil.
I would like to sidetrack a little bit. I know this episode of Gorehound Storytellers has been a little bit different. Not really stories, but more of a discussion.
Yeah.
But
we felt the need
to have. Yeah, we were having this talk outside of this room.
We want you guys to know us a little bit more too.
Yeah. So I look at the Filmmakers Group as it's like a pool of people. Some are amateur, some are pros. Gorehounds is a store, it's a business. You get to show your skills in the Filmmakers Network community. If you are successful, there's a possibility, if Gorehounds is successful, that we will pay you for your talent once we start making money.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Gorehounds is number one. Yep. Without the store, we wouldn't have anything else. So.
But it's a good outlet to showcase your movies, your talent, your art, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Even to do some research, you know. We have 7,000 titles here to look through.
Exactly. It's like a free school in a lot of ways.
I wouldn't say free. We do ask that you pay for your rental.
Oh, yeah. Well, exactly.
We're trying to generate revenue too, so we do have the opportunity to produce some things.
So there's been lots of, I don't know, would you say issues or people not doing stuff because
they're afraid?
They're afraid, or they just want to get paid to do it, like during the process.
And that doesn't work like that. Yeah.
I understand that everybody wants to make money, and everybody deserves to make money.
And time is important.
I like to use Steve Jobs as an example, or Bill Gates. You know, they didn't have any money, and no one paid them to actually make a computer. They never paid them an hourly wage to make a computer.
No. They were in their garage or their toilet.
Yeah.
Like we are. We're in our toilet room doing a podcast.
Exactly. So you have to make a quality product first and then sell it.
Yep.
No one's going to pay you.
There's got to be a sacrifice.
And there's a platform here to at least get your stuff started. Connect with people that know stuff that you don't.
Learn from each other.
Yeah. Coming up with new ideas even.
Networking is really important too. Meeting people in real life, learning about different skills and whatnot. And I think just the social interaction between everybody it's great. There's a community building here, and especially with your Filmmakers Group as well. I think you've got to, I see two really quickly growing communities, and it's nice to see, because the store I think is way more than just horror video rentals, and I mean it's a kick-ass store. It's my favorite store in Colorado, frankly, because it's the only store I've really been coming out to because everybody's so nice here. But I mean, it's just been a really positive experience.
When I first came in here, Jeff said, I can't quote him, but it was He summed it up. This is a place for people who feel left out.
Downtrodden.
This is a place
People who don't fit in with
oddball
everybody else.
people.
Yeah.
Loners, oddball people, creative people, people that feel alone in the world. You can come here and you can feel
Not
the
alone.
community.
Yeah.
And
you know,
Meet people with the same interests you have, and it's like you can immediately talk. Then you have these commonalities, and it makes it really good to become friends with people because it's so easy when you already have so much in common.
and not feeling awkward about it either. It's really comfortable.
Yeah. I just think it's important to, my opinion is just the way I do it is just get out my emotional stuff and creative things. And if I'm not doing anything creative, I'm going to go drink. And so this is a great place to come when I'm...
It's like the idle hands thing,
Yeah.
If you got nothing to do, sometimes it's a potential to do good, or sometimes it'll just when you're bored, you tend to do things that bored people do, and you get desperate. And it's good to avoid that. I think as much as possible.
I think when you're too comfortable and you're too bored, that's when you start using it.
Yeah, definitely. When you kind of take things for granted and everything's going well, but you just kind of like don't notice it after a while because you get caught up with other things in your life. I think.
Well, as addicts, we forget sometimes within 20 minutes that we're addicts.
I agree.
So we have to remind ourselves, and it has to be, what do you call it? You have to pay attention to it every day to keep it arrested.
I agree. And it's hard looking at yourself like, okay, I've been branded this thing now. Like I'm an addict my whole life, but at the same time, though, it teaches you to be careful, I think, and be aware of when things are getting bad. You need to intervene and try to do something. Call somebody, call a friend, go hang out with somebody. Just do something to get out of your head for a while. Anything
other than picking up.
It's true.
If you have to go to meetings, go to meetings.
I have no problem with that. I used to go to AA meetings. I used to go to NA meetings.
Use the Filmmakers Group as a meeting. Like if you're uncomfortable going to an AA meeting or whatever, come here, hang out with us, and
see what we're about. Because it's really comfortable. There's a lot of great stuff going on. This week there's going to be a huge announcement. I don't know if it's going to air before the meeting, but
it'll probably air. This will air next Wednesday, I believe.
So the first Wednesday of every month,
unless there's a snowstorm,
weather permitting.
Yeah, no snowstorm.
7 p.m.
I just wanted to ask Dan because I called Dan the Gorehound's biggest fan.
He is.
I feel like I am sometimes.
Because he hangs out here a lot and he's always liking everything.
And sharing.
And he's a really loyal customer.
I'm pretty positive.
And he's really positive. And I
look forward to seeing him.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, no problem, man. I like seeing you guys. I like coming in and talking to you. Like Jeff's awesome. I mean, he was probably the first friend I made out here in Colorado, and he really changed my way I looked at things out here. Because I was running into a lot of people I really didn't care for.
We've been trying to get Jeff out here on the podcast, but he's a busy guy right now.
Very busy.
So, Dan, I had a question. We got about 6 minutes left here.
Sure.
It's probably like a 2-minute answer. Since you're a huge fan of the Gorehound's Playground, where do you envision the Gorehound's Playground to go?
I envision Gorehound's Playground to expand. I think it will expand in the future. I think they're going to do a lot. You're going to do a lot more things with the filmmaking group. Even we've even talked about doing special nights where different people host movies. I think the possibilities are honestly pretty endless. It's just like we've got to get people that are interested in horror, interested. There's like a million things here. That we talk about that you can really, bite into and really get into it. So I see Gorehound's going in a positive direction. I see a lot bigger fan base building in the future. And I think Jeff and Jason are doing a great job running the store. I think Dustin's doing great with all the video he works on. And as well as the content for this channel, and Jason works on that as well. And I think it's great. It's good to see people so motivated, and it feels fresh, and it's exciting, I think, at this point. And I think it'll continue to get more so in that direction. But people really need to come out and support the store. You know.
Yeah, come in, rent movies. If you need to do filming research, 7,000 titles to choose from. We do a $30 30-day rental, unlimited rental. You can only take out 3 at a time. Late fees apply. But, I've watched probably 2,000 movies last year.
Damn.
And
that's my goal for someday.
I've gotten a lot of good ideas. I've gotten a lot more comfortable being behind the camera.
Cool. Dan.
Yes, sir.
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do a podcast, your own show? What do you think out there, people? Should you do it?
I don't know. I think I'd like to. I don't want to gross too many people out there. I've got some pretty gnarly stories to tell.
The audience says yes, man.
And if you want to do a podcast or have your own show, if you have a story to tell, get a hold of Dustin or I down at the Gorehound. If you have an idea for a show, do a quick one-page proposal and drop it on our table.
Well, so there's a little confusion. So we had a member create a email, and I created an email. So there's 2 emails, and it's really confusing for people. If you want to submit your content for a podcast for review, send it to gorehoundsfilmmakers@gmail.com. I do not have the password for their other Gmail account, so please send it to Gorehounds.
I believe that gentleman has left us.
Yeah, gorehoundsfilmmakers@gmail.com.
Sounds good, man.
And we're out.
Yeah.
The Gorehound Storyteller Hour.
Thank you.
Go have some good nightmares.